What if I told you that one of the most powerful families on earth didn't rise because of democracy, didn't rise because of industry, and didn't rise because of conquest alone, but because of a deal between sand, oil, and survival? What if the modern Middle East wasn't shaped by borders or wars, but by a single resource buried beneath the desert and a family that learned how to turn that resource into absolute power? Today, the House of Saud rules one of the richest nations in the world. They control staggering oil wealth, influence global markets, and shape geopolitics far beyond their borders. But this story didn't begin with oil rigs or skyscrapers. It began with poverty, violence, faith, and a gamble, one that still defines the modern world. The House of Saud, how oil built a modern dynasty. To understand the House of Saud, we need to go back before oil, before borders, before Saudi Arabia even existed. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the Arabian Peninsula was harsh, fragmented, and poor. There was no unified state, no modern army, no global relevance. Power belonged to tribes, and survival depended on loyalty, land, and force. This is where two forces quietly aligned. The House of Saud, a tribal family seeking political control, and the Wahhabi movement, a strict religious reform ideology seeking moral authority. Together, they formed a pact. Political power would protect religious authority, and religious authority would legitimize political power. This alliance would become the foundation of the Saudi state, but for generations, it was still a fragile arrangement, one rebellion away from collapse. The early House of Saud was not rich, they were not secure, and they were not inevitable. They rose, they fell, and they rose again. By the early 20th century, one man emerged as the family's defining figure: Abdul Aziz ibn Saud. A skilled fighter, strategist, and negotiator, he reunited much of the peninsula through warfare and alliances. In 1932, he declared the birth of a new nation, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But there was a problem. The kingdom had land, faith, and authority, but almost no money. The state was poor, pilgrimage revenues were unstable, and survival was uncertain. This is where the story takes its decisive turn. In the 1930s, foreign geologists began surveying Saudi land. What they found beneath the desert would change history. Oil. Not small reserves, but some of the largest oil fields ever discovered. At first, the value wasn't obvious, but soon everything accelerated. American companies entered. Infrastructure followed. Money began flowing. And the House of Saud made a critical decision. They would centralize control of oil under the royal family and the state. Oil didn't just bring wealth. It brought military security, international protection, political stability, and global leverage. By the 1970s, Saudi Arabia wasn't just a country. It was an energy superpower. Oil revenues funded cities, welfare, education, and loyalty, but they also created a new dependency, one that would quietly reshape the kingdom's future. The breaking point with wealth without accountability. As oil money exploded, power concentrated. The state provided citizens with free education, subsidized fuel, public jobs, no taxes. In return, the public gave up something critical: political participation. This was the unspoken trade, prosperity in exchange for silence. For decades, it worked, but oil wealth created side effects: economic dependence on one resource, a bloated public sector, limited private innovation, extreme inequality beneath the surface. When oil prices fell, cracks appeared. The system was strong, but not flexible. By the 21st century, Saudi Arabia sat at the center of global energy markets. A decision in Riyadh could raise fuel prices worldwide, shake stock markets, and influence international alliances. Yet internally, challenges mounted. A young population, high unemployment, rising expectations, global scrutiny. The House of Saud now faced a paradox. They had too much power to fail easily and too many dependencies to change quickly. Oil built the dynasty, but oil was also locking it in place. Failed fixes, reform under constraint. In recent years, Saudi leadership launched ambitious reforms, economic diversification, mega projects, social changes. But the core problem remains unresolved. The system was built on oil revenues, centralized authority, and controlled participation. Reforms must move fast enough to matter, but slow enough to preserve power. This tension defines the modern Saudi state. Oil created stability. Now it threatens sustainability. Modern parallels. The pattern repeats. Globally, the pattern is familiar. Resource wealth creates rapid power. Power concentrates decision-making. Dependency replaces adaptability. Reform becomes risky. Today, oil still fuels over 30% of global energy. Saudi Arabia controls a significant share of proven reserves. The world talks about transition, yet remains dependent. The dynasty's future is tied not just to Saudi choices, but to global energy habits. 3 takeaways. Oil didn't just create wealth, it created a political system. The House of Saud's power is inseparable from oil. Resource wealth can stabilize states and freeze them. What builds authority can also limit change. The real test comes after the resource peaks. The hardest era begins when the foundation starts to weaken. Warning: the open question. The House of Saud survived conquest, poverty, and uncertainty. But history shows that resource empires don't collapse when resources are discovered. They struggle when the world moves on. So the question remains, can a dynasty built on oil reinvent itself in a post-oil world? If this story helped you see power, wealth, and history differently, subscribe for more deep dives into the forces that shape our world. Because behind every modern empire